Picture this. You are the commander of the most sophisticated air campaign in the world. You have stealth fighters, precision-guided munitions, satellite intelligence, and the most expensive military technology ever assembled. And then, on a single night, someone reaches into the very center of that machine and tears out the part that makes all of it work. Not the fighters, not the missiles, the eyes, the brain. The thing that lets every other piece of the system see, think, and function. That is what happened on March 27th, 2026 at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. And if you have been following this war and you do not understand why this single event may have changed everything, you need to stay with me for the next 15 minutes. Because this is not a story about one aircraft. This is a story about architecture, about how the American air machine actually works, and about what happens when someone figures out exactly which piece to remove to make the whole thing start coming apart. Let me give you a number first. $500 million. That is what a single E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft costs. $500 million. One airplane. And on the morning of March 28th, one of them was sitting on the tarmac at Prince Sultan Air Base with its fuselage split in two and its radar dome lying on the ground next to it. Serial number 81-00005. Deployed from the 552nd Air Control Wing at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. Sent to Saudi Arabia in support of Operation Epic Fury. Destroyed. Not damaged, destroyed. And I want to spend the next several minutes making sure you understand exactly what that means, because I do not think the coverage of this event has come close to capturing the magnitude of what just happened. To understand why the loss of this aircraft is so consequential, you first need to understand what an E-3 Sentry actually does. And I suspect that for most people watching this, the honest answer is that they do not fully know. They know it is a big plane with a disc on top. They know it is important. But the specifics of why it matters, the exact role it plays in an air campaign, that part tends to get lost. So let me explain it clearly. The E-3 Sentry is a modified Boeing 707 airframe. On top of it sits a 30-foot rotating radar dome, which houses something called the AN/APY2 surveillance radar. AWACS stands for Airborne Warning and Control System, and the word that matters in that phrase is control, not just warning, control. When American tactical aircraft fly over a combat theatre, they are not flying blind. They are flying within a network that tells every pilot exactly where every other aircraft in the sky is, friendly and hostile. A network that tracks incoming threats, sorts them by priority, and assigns intercept assets to each of them in real time. A network that ensures that American aircraft and Allied aircraft do not accidentally shoot each other down in the confusion of a complex air battle. A network that can track cruise missiles flying at 50 meters above the desert floor, and drones moving through ground clutter that would make them invisible to conventional radar. All of that network, all of that coordination, all of that real-time situational awareness across an entire operational theatre simultaneously flows through the E-3. A retired Air Force colonel put it simply to the Wall Street Journal when he learned of the destruction of 810005. He said, "This is a very big deal. It hurts the ability of the United States to see what is happening in the Gulf." That phrase, the ability to see, that is the key. Because the E-3 is not a weapon. It does not drop bombs. It does not fire missiles. What it does is infinitely more important. It makes every weapon in the American arsenal more effective. Without it, the entire air campaign operates in relative darkness. Pilots have less information. Intercept assignments are slower. Threats that would have been tracked and engaged in time are tracked and engaged late, or not at all. And the E-3's radar, the AN/APY-2, can track aircraft and missiles simultaneously at ranges of several hundred miles, both below and above the radar horizon. Ground-based radar cannot do that. It cannot see below terrain features. It cannot look down into the clutter. The E-3, flying at altitude, looks down and sees everything. It is, in the most literal sense possible, the eyes and the brain of the American air operation. Now, here is where the loss becomes even more serious. Because we are not talking about a large fleet that can absorb a loss like this and continue without disruption. The United States Air Force currently operates 16 E-3 Sentry aircraft. 16. But that number is deceptive because in fiscal year 2024, the mission-capable rate for E-3s was approximately 56%, meaning that on any given day, roughly half of those 16 aircraft can actually fly and carry out their missions. The other half are in maintenance, awaiting parts, or grounded for technical reasons. This is an old fleet. The E-3 has been flying since the late 1970s. These are aircraft that have been held together through extraordinary maintenance effort for decades. 56% of 16 gives you approximately 9 aircraft capable of operations on a good day. 9. Before a single shot was fired in this conflict. And the United States Air Force deployed the bulk of its global operational E-3 fleet to the Middle East in support of Operation Epic Fury. 6 of those approximately 9 aircraft that could fly were stationed at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. 6 of 9. The overwhelming majority of America's operational AWACS capability concentrated in a single location, 600 kilometers from the Iranian coast. And now one of them is split in two, with its radar dome on the ground. That reduces the effective pool from roughly 9 operational aircraft to roughly 8. But the real operational impact is worse than that, because the coverage gap created by the loss of 810005 does not simply disappear. The missions that aircraft was flying still need to be flown. The airspace that aircraft was watching still needs to be watched. That burden now falls on the remaining aircraft in the theatre, which means more flying hours on airframes that were already operating at the edge of their maintenance tolerances, which means higher risk of further mechanical failures, which means further degradation of the fleet's operational capacity, which means a compounding problem that gets worse over time, not better. But the loss of the E-3 did not happen in isolation. On that same night, Iranian strikes on Prince Sultan Air Base are reported to have destroyed at least 3 KC-135 Stratotanker refueling aircraft, each costing approximately $53 million. And this was not even the first major attack on this installation. Earlier in March, a prior Iranian strike on Prince Sultan had already damaged at least 5 KC-135 aircraft. The tanker fleet is, and I want to be clear about this, as important to the operational tempo of the air campaign as the fighter aircraft themselves. Without aerial refueling, the range of American tactical aircraft shrinks dramatically. Targets that are currently within reach become unreachable. The frequency of strike missions is reduced. The arithmetic of fewer tankers available against the same or greater operational demand moves in only one direction. And then you have to look at the broader pattern of what Iran has been doing, because the loss of the E-3 and the tankers at Prince Sultan does not look like a lucky strike. It looks like the latest step in a coherent and systematic campaign against the detection and coordination layer of the American military architecture in this theatre. Earlier in this conflict, Iranian strikes destroyed the AN/FPS-132 early warning radar in Qatar, a system valued at approximately $1.1 billion. Iranian strikes destroyed 2 AN/TPY-2 radar systems associated with THAAD batteries, each valued at between $500 million and $1 billion. And now the E-3. What do all of these systems have in common? They are sensors. They are detection systems. They are the components that allow incoming threats to be seen and tracked and engaged before they reach their targets. Iran has been methodically and systematically dismantling the American detection architecture from the very beginning of this conflict. And the results are visible in the data. At the start of the conflict, the layered American and Israeli air defense system was intercepting the vast majority of Iranian strikes. And over the course of the past month, as radars have been destroyed and as interceptor inventories have been depleted, the penetration rate of Iranian missiles has risen to approximately 80%, according to available analysis. 80% of Iranian ballistic missiles are now reaching their intended targets, against a layered defense system that was designed and optimized to stop them. The relationship between the progressive destruction of American sensor architecture and the progressive improvement of Iranian missile penetration rates is not a coincidence. It is a feedback loop. Fewer radars and surveillance assets means less warning time. Less warning time means less opportunity to intercept. Fewer intercepts means higher penetration rates. Higher penetration rates means more damage to the infrastructure that supports the air campaign. More damage to that infrastructure means degraded operational capacity. And degraded operational capacity means the next wave of Iranian missiles faces an even weaker defense. 3 days before the E-3 was destroyed, on March 25th, United States Central Command Admiral Brad Cooper made a public statement. He said that Iranian missile and drone launches were down by more than 90% since the start of the conflict, that the United States had damaged or destroyed over 2/3 of Iran's missile, drone, and naval production facilities, that the US was on a path to completely eliminate Iran's wider military manufacturing apparatus. 2 days later, Iran launched 6 ballistic missiles and 29 drones at Prince Sultan Air Base. They destroyed a $500 million airborne warning and control aircraft. They damaged multiple refueling tankers. They wounded more than 10 American airmen. United States Central Command has not formally commented on the incident. Now I want to address the replacement question, because this is the part of the story that should make anyone paying attention genuinely uncomfortable. There is no rapid replacement available for a destroyed E-3 Sentry. The E-3's intended replacement, the Boeing E-7 Wedgetail, which is a modern AWACS system based on the 737 airframe, only received funding approval in early March of this year. The queue to receive the E-7 stretches years into the future. There is no warehouse somewhere full of replacement AWACS aircraft waiting to be deployed. The remaining 15 aircraft in the E-3 fleet, operating at their already strained 56% mission-capable rate, are all that exist between the United States Air Force and a catastrophic and irreplaceable gap in airborne battle management capability in the most active military theater on the planet. There is one more aspect of this event that deserves serious attention: the precision with which the Iranian strike targeted the E-3. The imagery from Prince Sultan Air Base shows that the ballistic missile strike hit the specific section of the aircraft's fuselage that houses the reinforced structure supporting the radar dome. The part of the aircraft that, if struck, would guarantee the total and irreparable destruction of the most valuable system on the plane. Aircraft parked on a flight line in Saudi Arabia are not visible from Iranian territory. They are visible from satellites, and the country's operating satellites capable of providing real-time, high-resolution imagery over the Arabian Peninsula that might share that data with Iran are not difficult to identify. The question of where that targeting data came from is one that American intelligence is almost certainly examining very carefully right now. 30 days into this conflict, 1 month from the day that the United States and Israel began their air assault on Iran, the most valuable American support aircraft in the theater has been destroyed on the ground at a base 600 kilometers from the Iranian coast. The detection architecture that allows the American air campaign to function has been progressively and systematically dismantled. The tanker fleet that extends the range of every American fighter aircraft has been repeatedly struck and degraded. The interceptor inventories that protect American bases and assets from Iranian missiles have been depleted. And the penetration rate of Iranian ballistic missiles continues to rise. Serial number 81-00005. Gone. Whatever comes next in this conflict, it will be happening with the American air machine operating with meaningfully less ability to see, less ability to coordinate, and less ability to protect itself than it had 30 days ago. And I think that fact deserves to be understood clearly, even when the official commentary is silent. Wherever you are watching from, I wish you peace and safety.